So I'm Jason Goodin. I'm married to Tanya, and we live in Columbia, Missouri. We have three children. I have a half daughter, Brittany, who lives in Germany. She's 24. And then my two youngest children, Grace, who's 10, and Grant, who's 8. And they both have multiple sulfatase deficiency, or MSD. I've lived in Columbia now since 2006. I did medical school in Kansas City, and then I moved here then for my internal medicine residency, and then I stayed here for pulmonary critical care fellowship, and then I took a job in 2012 at a private hospital here in town where I continued to practice pulmonary and critical care medicine. So multiple sulfatase deficiency, it's like really extremely rare. And so because of that, it's hard to diagnose. There's not a screening test for multiple sulfatase deficiency. And so in a way, we just found multiple sulfatase deficiency first in Grace, and it was honestly kind of an accident. So like when I look back, when she was like 2 and 3, like we would do like flashcards, and I was always amazed, like she could do all these animal flashcards and like super rare animals, and like just could rattle these off like left and right. And then as she got like a little older, probably towards like age 4, like that kind of started to change, and we started to see like more like behaviors, and it was just like really hard to get her to go like from one thing to the next. And so we sought care at the Thompson Center, which is a neuropsychiatric center in Columbia for children. And we eventually got in. It took like a year, and we received a diagnosis of autism. So we thought we were dealing with autism for Grace. And so we were able to get her into like, early childhood education and a special speech, like pre-K, and all different kinds of therapies. And then eventually got her going with ABA. And then my son came along, and we noticed that like he wasn't growing. And so we're like, well, this is not normal. I mean, my wife's like probably 5'9", I'm 6 foot. And like he was just like way smaller than like all the kids his age. And we didn't want to be those parents, but we were those parents. And so we went, looking to see what was going on. And so we went and saw a pediatric endocrinologist, and one thing led to another. And then we found out that he had growth hormone deficiency. So we started giving him growth hormone shots. Well, this worked. And so, he started to grow. He was doing great. But then at the same time, like our daughter, Grace, like was small as well. And so we're like, well, maybe we should have her see the endocrinologist as well. Like shots, because of her autism, probably it's not going to go well, but at least then we'll know like what's going on. So our endocrinologist said, well, before we do this, like we probably need to have some genetic testing done to make sure there's not like an underlying genetic cause. And so she had us see a geneticist, and they did a genetic panel, like an autism panel, and they didn't find MSD on that, but they found another abnormality that turned out really to be nothing, but one thing led to another. They ran some more specific tests, and that's when we found out that we have the SUMF1 mutation. My wife has a mutation, and I have a different mutation of the same gene. And so those two together give us children with MSD. And so really we weren't looking for MSD. We thought we were dealing with like, autism and growth hormone deficiency. And, this is how like we, stumbled upon this. We thought autism diagnosis was horrible. Like, it was just challenging to go anywhere, like get in the car, go anywhere. Like we thought that was challenging, but then you like find out about MSD and you wish you just had autism. So we saw a regular geneticist, and that's when we find out that we had the SUMF1, but it's so rare. Then they had to see a metabolic geneticist here in town, and then they did enzyme sulfatase levels in the blood and then in the urine as well. Initially just on Grace, and so so then I know then they called Tanya. I mean, they already told us they thought this was what it was, but then they called Tanya like one afternoon when we got the results back, I think from like Mayo Clinic, and told her. And then, I just remember like walking into the house that night. I didn't know they had called her and like given her the diagnosis, but like I saw her face and like I knew it was bad. Really wanting to test Grant, I guess, right away, but I mean, they had enough commonalities that we were like, well, we need to know, and Grant was just like, I mean, he still is like just like a normal, functioning child. He seems, I mean, he's got some cognitive delay, but if you looked at him on a baseball field, you couldn't tell him apart from any other child. And so then we did the same testing on him. They just sent off the SEMF1 gene. They sent off the whole panel since we already knew, and sure enough, lightning strikes twice. And so, Grant has it as well. So multiple sulfatase deficiency really involves a lot of, there's just a lot of differences, and some of this we understand, and I think some of this we don't know. So in the mutations that drive multiple sulfatase deficiency, there's different variants, and it's so rare that we don't really understand this. But basically, if you put probably a mild variant with a mild variant, then you have children that probably present less severely, and if you have more severe variants, it becomes like obvious, like at birth, or maybe even in utero when the child's still in the mother's womb. And so because of that, I mean, the clinical course for these kids is just so much, I guess, is so much different. I would say like probably in Willow's case and in other children's case, because their presentation was more severe, like it was more obvious, I guess, that there was something wrong. I mean, my thought process is that there's probably other children with more like, tempered, presentations that are out there, and they've been told they have like, autism or intellectual disability. And really they're walking around, with MSD until someday when the disease finally, catches up to them. And I think eventually, I think eventually they all are going to lose, what you would consider to be like, normal function, walking, talking, eating. I mean, there's not been anybody, documented past their teens, as far as I know, that's quote unquote, I guess normal. I guess my challenge, like, to the dads would be, like, you have opportunity all the time in your life to like make a positive impact to your kids. And maybe that's like throwing a baseball with them and then like having that memory the rest of their life. Maybe it's just sitting down at the dinner table and eating with them. Not very many people have an opportunity to like be part of like curing a rare disease. And I have that opportunity, and you have that opportunity. And I just think that like you get the right group of motivated people, and we're all pushing towards the same goal, which is like fixing this horrible disease. And it's not just my kids, it's all these kids, it's kids worldwide. I just think, I see people, and dads included, we put a lot of energy into a lot of things. I mean, how many people can say they help cure a rare disease? So, that would be my challenge, like, to you. Go out, use your voice, use your connections, value your family, give your kids an extra tight hug, love them up, love your wife, be more than you think you can be, and we can get this done.